Right, let's get into it then. So today is a back day, big back day. Was potentially going to be yesterday, but decided to just do all biceps, which I'm fine with. So we're now headed to the gym, just got a haircut, picked up some food as well, so I'm going to eat that on the way. And yeah, I'm planning on just killing my back, and then I might actually do a little bit of hamstrings as well. Just depends on how I'm feeling. So pretty much I would usually be doing legs around this time, but my knee's not quite recovered enough for me to want to kind of, well, almost waste a whole leg session on that one. And basically, like, if I can aim to like really push my hamstrings separately rather than just do a whole quad day, I think that's going to benefit me a little bit more, because by doing that, what the fuck, man? So yeah, if I can, rather than just saying, okay, I'm not going to do any legs at all, I'll obviously just do some hamstrings instead, or I'll obviously have the opportunity to do some hamstrings instead. So I'll see how I get on. I'm not trying to force it, so I may well do the session and just finish and then think, you know what, my back's absolutely cooked, and that'll do. And then there's no real point in me dragging it out and just, yeah, dragging myself through hamstrings when I could just do that in a couple of days and have like a fresh session. So tomorrow will definitely be chest and a little bit of triceps as well. Not looking to do too much shoulders tomorrow. I will do a bit of shoulder press, but no side delts or anything like that, because I've killed them recently. So yeah, primarily it's going to be upper chest, front delts, triceps tomorrow. Today, back, maybe hamstrings. Rest, probably Christmas Day, but never say never. And we'll see where that takes us. I think the day, yeah, Boxing Day, I'll definitely train, but I'm not sure what I'll do at that point, so we'll have to just see. But yeah, the food that I got is, I got some, well, you can't really see them, but I've got some pan of chocolates here, and then I got some cinnamon yum yums, so those. And then I'm going to go see my grandmother after and just finish a couple bits of Christmas packing. So grab myself some of this, because I'd usually have a protein shake, but yeah, 75 grams of protein in this. So I'm going to eat these now because I'm only about 5 minutes away from the gym. So I'll end the sort of intro here. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the gym for the back session.
For some reason, I feel like every single time I forget the microphone, it's usually on a back day, which isn't a huge issue, but sometimes it makes it difficult to comment on the actual footage, especially when it's the same sort of machine. So I thought I'd just talk about back training in general and my thoughts really. So in terms of like exercise selection, I don't think it matters too much what you start with, as long as it's not going to completely wipe out your lower back for the rest of the session. That's kind of my main thought process when I approach the first working set. So this machine here, for example, if I was to stand on the plate at the back, that would arch my back a lot and put a lot of tension on my lower back area and my lumbar, etc. So for that reason, I've then chosen to stand and just have my kind of upper chest slightly over the top there, but it feels fantastic. So just a slight adjustment there means that I'm not going to be feeling really fatigued and tired throughout the rest of the session. Now, that being said, when I used to train back, like literally when I first started gym, I did used to deadlift a lot, but I wasn't actually concerned with growing my back at all. I just did it purely for the love of deadlifting and getting stronger, etc. So yes, that did put a lot of strain on my lower back, but then I wasn't really concerned with the rest of the session as much. As long as I hit those numbers on deadlift, that was good for me. So then after that, going back to deadlifts in the future and then trying to do a full back day focused on hypertrophy or strength or a certain area, that just become really hard when my lower back was fatigued, and even like my hamstrings as well, my core would be quite taxed. So you can imagine then going on to like a bent over row or something like that, trying to support, you know, 100, 140, 160 kilo barbell rows is very, very difficult when your hamstrings have been taxed from pulling up such weight from the floor. So that's one thing to think about. But other than that, I do keep it pretty open-minded with my back training at this point in time. Other than a lot of single arm stuff these days, I'll try and use to focus on my lats, because I think in the past I was definitely getting stronger at my lat pull down, which does indicate that you are progressively overloading, etc. But it wasn't at the rate that my upper back traps and rhomboids were increasing. So yeah, focusing a little bit more, which does take a hell of a lot more time and isn't always the most easy to set up. But yeah, if you have got a bit more space in your week where you can devote to strictly lat training on a back day, or if you can alternate your workout. So for example, you do 2 back days where they're pretty standard, and then maybe the third one you could add a few more lat based exercises. But one thing which hugely changed for me was I rarely do back and biceps at this point in time. It's usually back or arms, or back and then biceps by itself. Don't get me wrong, I will do it sometimes, but I just think that has been a lot easier for me to kind of experiment with new exercises, because I always like to keep the staples in. So even if I was doing back and biceps, I'd probably always do some form of like a lat pull down. I'd do some form of row. And then, by that point in time, I'm already pretty fatigued, especially if I want to do rear delt and biceps and maybe some abs. You're already looking at a good couple hours there. So for me, I think taking that bicep training away really just allowed me to actually try a few more different exercises and not feel not only the time pressure, but obviously also the kind of physical pressure of, okay, I'm fatigued, like even setting this machine up is difficult. I can't actually kind of isolate and contract the muscle with the same intensity. Obviously, when you walk in the gym fresh, as long as you've done a few warm-up sets to actually engage that muscle, get some blood in there, you can usually kind of attempt a new exercise a lot better. So definitely something for you guys to try if you haven't already. Some single arm stuff. I actually hadn't implemented those diagonal single arm pulls until probably like within the last 12 months. So that was something which I've found quite fun in the last 6 months, especially as I've got way stronger, and now obviously can max out the stack with a 5 kg. But moving on to this lat pull over here, fantastic machine. This one probably a lot of you guys won't have access to. The gyms that I'm using aside from this one don't have it. So when I do train here at Heroes, this is a great one and a great piece of kit. Really able to load this up. I think my top working set on this one is about 150 kilos, so 75 kilos each side, but obviously it's not a single arm movement, so the weight just comes up all together. And yeah, that's been fantastic for growth. And I would always recommend wearing a belt, which I do mention many times. So aside from those, I'd say another exercise which I do enjoy is like lat pullovers, and that can be used with a rope. You can do that with a bar. You can do that with a wide lat pull down bar. But that one I'd say is quite difficult to learn. So it's not something that I would always recommend to beginners in the gym, but definitely something which, if you haven't tried before, that could be a nice one again to add in when you're not so fatigued. So that's one where if I've done a huge back session and I'm going to do biceps and other stuff, I just won't really have the kind of patience and the mental energy to really warm up with a weight that feels not too heavy and not too light, and then you have to really work on foot positioning, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, the more I'm speaking about this, the more I realize that actually the further I get into the session, it's not probably the actual physical capability of doing the exercise or a new exercise. It's actually the kind of mental approach to setting it up, make sure it all feels perfect. If it's single arm as well, obviously you have to kind of balance that you're not overworking one arm and making that considerably stronger. Breathing's quite tough as well, because obviously the sets are really long duration, and then also sometimes core engagement can be a little bit difficult. So that's another reason I don't really like doing single arm dumbbell rows, because I just find a lot of core engagement there. And there was an exercise that I tried to do the other day. Yeah, it was standing single arm cable front delt raises. And just from doing a couple sets, like as I was kind of slightly twisting my shoulder to really try and engage it at the top there, as in I'd still keep my hand neutral, but slightly tilting my shoulder would kind of engage my obliques and my abs, just because obviously in that movement I was standing and I haven't got that stability from having two sides of my body underweight. If you're doing a Bulgarian split squat and you're on one leg, you're going to be theoretically a lot less stable than if you were doing just a standard barbell squat, because obviously one side of your body has got weight bearing on it and the other side is kind of balancing. So something to keep in mind as well, if you are going to try that, perhaps don't do that at the end of a session. If you're going to do single arm stuff, even if it is lightweight, it could be better to move that to the start of the session. So yeah, chucking in some calves here, and this is quite interesting because what I've started to do at this point in time, obviously I'm a bit ahead in the future now when you're watching this video. This is from a little while ago, but I've started to actually make a tally of how many sets of calves I'm doing, not really per week, but just like in a certain period of months, just as a kind of little challenge for me. So every time I do a set, I'll add a tally on there and basically just see how far I can take it. So yeah, calves will always have to be improved for me. I've got horrible calf insertions, but also don't train them enough, so no excuse. But I will say for this workout, the pose down was pretty good. So it's nice to look back and still see how the progress has changed, and going from bulk to lean bulk to diced. So I don't remember the exact day that I start to really diet down, but it's coming up very soon. And it's honestly crazy looking back here. Like, as I was saying, I was just pushing so much food at this point, and just my body was not putting on much weight at all. So yes, here I definitely am bulking. I definitely am eating like 5,200 plus calories minimum. I think at this point it was 5,400, and yeah, still super lean. I don't know why that was. I tried to implement more carbs. I've tried to be a bit more careful with my meal timing and stuff like that, but perhaps I had just gone up too quickly from the initial point, from that very starting point. I think maybe just the jump was too quick and metabolism just adjusted really fast. So this diet that I'm doing right now, which I'm currently on, has actually continued past kind of where I thought it would, but that's been a choice because I want to continue to get literally almost as lean as I've ever been before and just see how far I can take it. So hopefully, obviously, when I get to that point, the starting point for the next lean bulk will be, absolutely ridiculous, because body fat will be to an absolute minimum. My insulin sensitivity should be, really high, and just motivation to train, like the body's response to putting on muscle, everything should just be fantastic because I've done that dieting phase for so long. And obviously throughout that whole dieting phase that I'm still currently on now, protein intake's been fantastic, cardio's been good, training's been balanced and heavy and overloaded and strong. So there's no reason why I shouldn't maintain most, if not all, of the muscle tissue that I put on. But as I said, definitely didn't put on as much as I would have hoped. In hindsight, this was only a very short lean bulk, but I think it's just the fact of how many calories I was eating, which was frustrating, because obviously I could have kept doing that for a long period of time, but I just couldn't really see the need to keep increasing those calories week in and week out, especially when the weight was just not really budging as much as I thought it would. So yeah, basically, I'm really excited for this next bulk, and I think it's going to be probably the most methodical, thought out one that I've done. I've also got a freezer at home now, which is, going to be so good for meal prep. I've got some really good things that I can use in my diet to try and basically make sure I'm always ready to perform in the gym. So, meal preps, dry snacks, simple carbs, complex carbs, really trying to kind of dig a bit deeper into the nutrition and see if I can use that to my advantage. So I'd say if you guys are just starting in the gym, don't worry about all this stuff. It really, in my opinion, is not necessary. And I'm only really doing it now because I've kind of mastered pretty much every other aspect of it. Without sounding too confident there, it just is a way for me to improve something else while obviously the training things are going well. I still do want to improve on my recovery, so that's going to be another huge pillar of the gym which I'm going to focus on to try and improve everything else. But yeah, mainly I think just more meal preps, better recovery, and obviously always being open-minded with my training. So yeah, I'll leave the commentary here, guys, ready for the car talk at the way home, and hope you guys enjoyed the training and the pose down.
So I know you guys can't see me too well, but this will have to do, unfortunately, because the lighting in this car is not the best. But that was as good as it could have been for a gym session. I don't want to say the best because that's a bold statement, obviously, but very good. So as not as predicted, but as was a discussed option before the session, I wasn't sure if I was actually gonna go ahead and rip any sets on hamstrings, and turns out that I just did back and calves, and that was lovely. So, it got to about, I don't know how many sets in, but to the point where I was then thinking, right, I mean, realistically, if I really wanted to work my hamstrings now, I could, but I think I should stop training back because I'm getting overall tired. So obviously my legs are fresh, but my actual overall energy and ability to just perform is going to be lessened. And not just physically in terms of like breathing, cardio, core, you know, but also central nervous system, just being able to execute the lift as efficiently as possible. So just chose to go for the cast because I do want to top them up a little bit. Now that being said, that is one thing, however, that I did find with back when I used to train it. Believe it or not, if I would go like insanely heavy on like cable rows or on barbell rows, then I found that actually my hamstrings would actually get a bit tight and sore the day after, which is pretty insane. I guess not a bad thing, because it's one of them where I could stop at a certain level or I could push it a bit more. Yes, the hamstrings are getting taxed a little bit, but the back development, in my opinion, has been crazy. Yeah, I definitely think that like my upper back rhomboid thickness is one of my best attributes physically. Today was like a completely different session than I was doing like a month ago, which is nice to see how it's changed. So before I was pretty much like starting with a lat pull down, then going on to do like a single arm actual machine row, and then I'd go on to like a diagonal sort of cable pull through. That would be like my staples, and then rear delts as well. But recently I've tried to do a bit more scapular retraction, which in this case was the T-bar row. So I got super heavy on that today. I think I did, was it 85 kilos? Or I think it was actually maybe even 90. I think it was 90 actually. No, it would have been 85. So that was good. Did that for 2 sets of 10 and then 2 partials. So when I say that, it's like the set that I would actually kind of count, and then the last couple are just purely like pump out, like stretch, fatigue, and just really exhausting that muscle under tension. And obviously when you've got like 80-90 kg there, that does do a lot. So did that for 3 sets. Oh sorry, the third set was actually dropped the weight by 5 kilos, and I think I did the same number of reps. So 3 sets on the T-bar row. Then I moved on to do the next machine, which was I think a single arm cable pull through, which on this one I did the full stack plus a 5 kilo, which is the heaviest that I've done on par with, but this time I did like 15 to 16 reps, whereas usually I'll get about like 12 and then I'll have to pump out a couple partials. So that was really good. And also the first set I forgot to use straps, and then second set I actually used straps. So it's like even being able to do it there with kind of limited grip strength. Did not do that on purpose, would not recommend that. I would never even do that just to see if I could do it personally, unless I was like training to be like a firefighter, or you know, for like a specific task, to be able to not have straps on you at all times, you know. But in the gym, that's just not what I'm going for. So yeah, now I've not eaten a lot today. I literally had only that one, I think, pan of chocolate, so fuck all, like literally 350 calories probably. So I have got another one with me, which I'm gonna have, and then actually I can just go straight on. And then also I've got a sort of protein milk there, which I showed you beforehand. So now going to my nan's, I'll probably have a coffee first with the pan of chocolate or whatever it is, and then after that I'll start having the protein shake. So at least then if I drink that, that's got me like 75 grams of protein in. And then I've got some leftover, well not leftover, but I basically made food yesterday, split it into 2 portions. So it was like, total was 2 packs of rice, and then 22 packs of bacon, so 20 rashers of bacon, and then 6 eggs split into 2. So each meal's pack of rice, whole pack of bacon, 3 eggs. So easy to split as well. Like when you go to the shop, you don't have to like piss about like, oh, 1 egg here, 1 egg there, oh, I've run out of eggs. It's just like 1 pack of eggs lasts you 2 meals, or if you get a 12 pack, that'll last you 4 meals, because you have 3 in each. And then if you start to gain weight and bulk up, very easy then to increase the calories. What you do is just buy a 12 pack of eggs and just start having 4. So then you've got like an extra 7 or 8 grams of protein if it's a large egg, and then I don't know how many calories in eggs without off the top of my head, to be honest with you. But yeah, I'm not having that all the time, but that's like a nice little staple. Or the just literally beef mince and rice, which honestly, like, been training nearly 9 years, I've never had that as a staple, like, ever. But recently it's just so easy. It's the easiest thing to make. I was doing turkey mince for ages, did a bit of chicken mince, but yeah, for me, like, that's just so easy. I just can't see kind of an easier option at the moment. So if I'm just really feeling like, you know, just sort of lazy and just like I want to just get a bowl of food in front of me that's just, I mean, I want to say bland, like it tastes amazing to me, but it's not full of spices and things that are just gonna like put me off or upset my stomach or ruin my palate. You know, I've been on 5,200 calories now for like probably over 10 days. Weight's just not shifting, so I'm gonna put it up to 5.4 thousand tomorrow, do that until probably the 1st of January, and just see if I've gained weight. If I can actually start to stomach that food again, and I'm consistently eating 5.4 and the weight goes up, I may run it for a bit longer. But if it just continues like it is now, it's just not worth me pushing myself to do all that, really. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense. Anyway, now arrived at my nan's, so yeah, I'll end the video here, but appreciate all you guys joining in, and yeah, see you in the next one. The only way is up.